Hey y'all. Today I wanted to talk to you about Stephen King, one of my favorite writers. Um, Now, I'm a big fan of Stephen King books, obviously, but I also am a huge fan of Stephen King movies. I have a whole bunch of them here in my collection, and of course I've, gone to the movies and seen them. The other day, well, actually, last month there was a new movie that came out from Stephen King, The Life of Chuck or something. Now, I didn't see it. It was only in the theaters very brief time. I was in the United Arab Emirates for a while, for just like a week. And when I got back, the movie was already out of the theaters. It had come and gone. So um, some Stephen King movies are big hits, like The It or something. And others just kind of come and go and are kind of flops, I guess. But I'm excited for his next big movie, The Long Walk. That's going to be coming out soon this summer, I think, and I'm really looking forward to that. Any Stephen King movie, I'm always going to try to see, if I'm in the country and it happens to be playing. So looking forward to that. But today I wanted to talk to you about three stories that I love that I am kind of shocked haven't become movies yet. Maybe they will one day, but for now they are still just Stephen King stories, and I think they're really great, and I think they'd make great movies. So if you don't know about these, maybe you want to check them out and read them. So the first one I'm going to talk about is from Stephen King's book, Everything's Eventual. And it's actually the title story of this one, the one called Everything's Eventual. I absolutely love the story Everything's Eventual. It's very Stephen King-y. It has lots of some of the same themes that he has in others, like with psychic powers, something like that. It's kind of like with The Shining or with Firestarter or something like that. So it's kind of cool. It's a very interesting story. If you've never read it, I recommend it. It's a short story, so it's just one of many stories in this anthology, and it's about this young guy. His name is Dinky, and he found a job, a really cool job, unlike any other. And they kind of go into the story about his job. So, uh, you know, this job doesn't pay much, okay? And he finds out about the job because, one day someone says, meet him in like a parking lot. And someone comes in a big old Mercedes. And, I love Mercedes. Isn't Mr. Mercedes here? That's another Stephen King story. Stephen King loves Mercedes, right? As much as I do. So in the story, there's someone comes by in a Mercedes and meets with Dinky in the parking lot and says, I have a job for you. Now, it doesn't pay much, but the benefits are amazing. And so Dinky takes the job, and the benefits really are amazing. In fact, I think about it all the time when I'm like budgeting or doing my own finances. So this is a work from home job. And it's also, well, they give him the home as well. So as part of his benefits package, Dinky gets a house, a little house in the suburbs. That's what he gets. And he has a little, he has a little money, but here's the thing. He has to spend the money at the end of like every week. And so sometimes he hasn't spent it all. And so he'll put it like in the garbage disposal or something, or throw the coins down the drain or something like that, or down into the sewer or something like that, not the drain. And it's an interesting image. In fact, Stephen King talks about it in the intro. He said, I had this image in my head of someone throwing all their money down into the sewer down the street. And he was like, I just thought there's a story in there. And indeed, it's a really interesting story. So he gets all these benefits, but he has to spend all the money at the end of the week. And eventually he realizes why he has to do that. It's so that he can never save money and escape. He can never leave the situation that he's in, this job. And it seems like the perfect job, but it isn't quite the perfect job. And of course, I don't give spoilers, but we find out later what the job entails and the horrors begin. But it's interesting. My favorite part of the story is how he got the job and he got the house and he has this money that he has to get rid of at the end of each week. And he spends it on going to the movies and going to McDonald's. It's kind of like something I would do if I had some money. And but the cool thing is, one of my favorite parts is something called Dinky's Day Board. And I actually had one for myself. I called it Ducky's Day Board. And it was just silly. But on Dinky's Day Board, it's like this whiteboard, and he writes on it every week what he wants. It can be, I need new clothes. There's like a book I want to read. Or on one part, he says, I want an autographed photo of Nicole Kidman. You know, he just writes things that he wants. And at the end of the week, like once a week, when he's supposed to get rid of all his money, someone comes over, like a team of people come over to clean his house. They clean it, they restock items in the house, and they sort of grant whatever wish was on Dinky's day board. So he'll come home and he'll see the new clothes he wanted, he'll see whatever book he asked for, and he'll see an autographed photo of Nicole Kidman. Like, he can kind of get whatever he wants. So now I made myself one, but it was more like a grocery list, and I had to get the items myself, and it had nothing to do with Nicole Kidman. But I like the concept, and it makes for an interesting story. I think they could flesh it out more into like a movie. He can ask for all kinds of crazy things and then just be shocked when he gets home at the end of the week. After because he has to leave for a few hours every week. So usually he's home doing this job, but when the cleaners come, he has to leave. So he'll go to the movies or McDonald's. And when he gets back, he sees the house clean, he sees all the things he wants, and it's just kind of cool. I think it's a fun story. It's a great horror story, but it's also just a lot of fun, and it's an interesting tale, and it could make a good 90-minute movie. I don't see why not. I recommend, if you haven't read it, read Everything's Eventual by Stephen King, and if you're a screenwriter, well, maybe work on that. Maybe I will. Let's see. Another story that I love is from Stephen King's book, Skeleton Crew. Now, this one is called, there's all kinds of ones. You'll see here, the first one is The Mist, which, that was a huge movie. I don't know if you ever saw The Mist. I think I have it here. So, yeah, here it is. The Mist was great. And that comes from this book, Skeleton Crew, sorry. So The Mist is great. That's how it starts. It's one of his best novellas. That one's like a full novella, but most of the stories in here are short stories. There's also The Monkey. That movie came out, just like last year. So people are reading this. The Raft. Do you remember The Raft? The Raft is such a great movie, a great story. Now, they put that one in, I think, Creepshow 2, if you've never seen Creepshow 2. Yeah, The Raft. Yeah, The Raft is in Creepshow 2, one of my favorite movies. George A. Romero did the screenplay for it from Stephen King's short story, The Raft, which is in here. There's good stories in this book, Skeleton Crew, sorry. not the skeleton key like in that movie. So I've read this book a couple of times. At the end of each time I read it, I always write down. Yeah, I write. I scribble it in the back when I've read it. It just kind of keeps me happy. But yeah, this is a really good book. So the one I want to talk to you next, which I think would make a great movie, is Mrs. Todd's Shortcut. I love that story, mostly because I'm a car lover. I love my Mercedes, and Stephen King does too. You can tell Stephen King's probably a car lover too. Yeah, of course, if you've ever seen Christine, you'll know Stephen King is a car lover. But anyway, so this story is interesting, and I think of this story all the time too. It's one of those it's stuck in my head. And when there's a story that you think about all the time, that's when you know it would make a good movie or something like that. These are the kind of stories, and I think that Mrs. Todd's Shortcut would make a movie where you would just keep thinking about it long after you've seen it. So Mrs. Todd's Shortcut is fascinating. It's a kind of a sci-fi almost. Some of his best works I think are sci-fi horror, like The Mist, which talks about like a portal that sort of opens. Well, Mrs. Todd's Shortcut is a little like that. So Mrs. Todd is this lady, and she has a Jaguar, I think, and she's looking for a shortcut. She's obsessed with looking at maps and getting from one place to another really quickly. She says that she's efficient and she values time and that sort of thing, and I'm that way too, especially as a financial person. I'm always looking for efficiency and ways of saving time, ways of doing multiple things at once, that sort of thing. So I always found the story really fascinating. So she's got this map, and I can't remember exactly where she's going. I think it's to visit her father. I can't really remember, but she's going from like one town to another, and she's got a friend or someone who she talks to about this. And so she's going from one town to another, and it takes her like 3 hours to get there. And she's like, wow, that's a long time. I love my fast car. I love my Jaguar, but I don't like that it took me 3 hours. So she's studying this map and trying to figure things out. And one day she calls her friend and says, you know what, using my prowess and the car's speed, the speed demon, I think is what they call it in the book, she's like, I was able to get it to 2 hours, which is amazing. And her friend's like, oh, that's impressive. But then, I don't exactly remember what she does. She's like going around. She maybe makes her own map. I'm not really, but she finds some route, and she tells him, I was able to get there in like 20 or 30 minutes. Like insane. How did she do it? And that's what the story tells you. It tells you a little bit how she does it. And it starts entering into a science fiction sort of thing, because normal laws of physics probably wouldn't allow the shortcut that she gets. So it's pretty fascinating what she does and how she does it. I think it makes a really good story. I'm not really sure it could make a full-length movie, but if there's another anthology, a sort of creep show style, I think it would make a good half-hour long movie, mini movie, to show what happens to Mrs. Todd. Now, in addition to that, something else is happening to her physically. By doing this shortcut, things change for her body, and so things start to get a little more haunting and a little more interesting. So It's a fantastic story. Like I said, it would make a great little mini movie. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend Mrs. Todd's Shortcut. And the third one I want to talk about is, I will say, it's also in Skeleton Crew. I don't know if you can see it. Let's see. Yeah, so there's, you can see here is Mrs. Todd's Shortcut. And then the one right after that is called The Jaunt. And The Jaunt is terrifying. In fact, someone once asked me like what I thought was like the scariest story. And it's the first thing that pops into my head. Like, I think one of the scariest stories that there is The Jaunt. I looked it up on like YouTube, and I saw that someone had actually kind of made a student amateur movie of this at one point, but it wasn't like a real movie. And I don't think they even actually made it. I think they just made like a demo trailer or something so that maybe they could get funding. But if a major motion picture got it, this could be really great. There's a lot there. I mean, the story's kind of short, but I feel like they could add a lot to it. It's haunting and absolutely horrific and just terrifying to me anyway. I've heard other people talk about their favorite Stephen King ones, and I wouldn't say this is my favorite, but it's just the one that scares me the most. It scares me to my core. It's haunting. So I'll tell you a little bit about it. Basically, there's an inventor, okay? And this inventor has found a way, like with a teleport machine. It's kind of like The Fly, if you've ever seen The Fly, the Cronenberg movie. I guess that was the remake of it, but the one with Jeff Goldblum. But so The Fly, Jeff Goldblum is able to go from one teleported pod into another, right? And in the movie, as you know, you probably know, one day when he's going from one teleport machine to the next, there's a little fly that gets into the machine. And so when Jeff Goldblum gets to the other side and wakes up, his DNA has kind of been scrambled with a fly. Okay, I've talked too much about The Fly. It has nothing to do with this story. But it has some overtones to this one, too. So in this story, The Jaunt, the inventor, it's a little more, I don't know, I would say it's a little more thoughtful than The Fly. Or at least it takes a whole different concept of the idea of teleportation. So in this one, the inventor puts just like a thing in the teleport, and finally, after years and years of work, he presses the button, and then the item within like a mini nanosecond is on the other side. And he's like so excited and thrilled about that he was able to do this, right? So he takes something else. I think it's a bunny rabbit. No, it's a fish. It's a fish. I was getting confused with another movie. So he takes a fish and like a goldfish, and he puts it in the tele thing, transporter, and presses the button, and the fish goes from here to here instantly. And he's so excited because now he realizes this is going to change the world. This machine, because this doesn't just have to be on one side of the barn where he's doing this experiment. This could be in another city. This could be in another country. He could have transported that fish to a whole other planet even, right? So he's already thinking ahead. He's thinking, why don't we do this to Mars or something like that? And indeed, the way the story begins, this is taken over the whole world now, and people go to Mars regularly. They get in one pod and they press the button, and within a nanosecond, they're on the red planet, because this teleportation will, it doesn't matter the distance. If you put it on Mars, it'll take you to Mars. Fascinating. So we know that if he becomes successful, but there is one problem, right? After he did that test with the fish, he runs to the other machine and he looks in it, and the fish is alive for like a second, and then the fish just dies. And he says, oh, well, that's horrible. You know, it's great that I have this teleportation machine, but no one's going to want to use this if, you know, they get in it. Yeah, they can go to Mars, but then they'll die as soon as they wake up. This is horrible. So he decides to keep working at it. And I'm not exactly sure what he all does, but eventually they start testing this on like prisoners. But before I get into it, so the inventor finds out that the reason the fish died was because the fish was awake when this thing happened. And he starts to realize that moving a physical object from here to here with its atoms and everything, because they'll transport, you know, they'll move, that takes only a small amount of time. But what if the item you moved was awake, and what about its consciousness? How long does it take a consciousness to move from one location to another? Like, think about your dreams. Do you ever have a dream where it seems like, you know, days or years have passed, and you wake up and you've only been asleep for like 30 minutes? Well, it's kind of the same concept. So he, like, he'll put a different animal in there and it'll also die after a few moments, like from a heart attack. Like something is happening to that poor animal during that transporting time that is so shocking that it like stops their heart when they finally awaken in their new location. So in the movie, he decides, they test this on prisoners, right? They send some prisoners from one side to another. But there is one prisoner that they tell him, and this is a very bad guy, and he's got, you know, he's in life, he's you know, he got, you know, prison for life, right? He's serving time, a life sentence. But they tell him, if you go in this machine called the jaunt, if you take this little jaunt from here to here, awake, we will give you a full pardon and you're free to leave prison, right? So the prisoner is like, okay, I'll take it. And so they put the prisoner in the pod, and then a second later, the prisoner comes out of the pod. Now, I can't tell you what happened, but you're going to have to read the story yourself. But I will tell you, it is horrific what happens for the one prisoner who is awake. So that is why, and when you read the story and you start to understand the horrors of transporting someone's consciousness, it's very bad. It's just like, to me, it's unimaginable horror. So there's a lot in it. There's sci-fi, you know, it's a big story. I can see them really fleshing out the inventor's story, the idea of the, you know, the testing, the prisoner's story. Yeah, this could be a full-length feature film. And then, of course, the horrible things that happen to not just the prisoner, but many other characters who are mentioned in the story. So yeah, it's a great little story, The Jaunt, horrifying. I think it'd make a great full-length movie. So yeah, these are three stories, three Stephen King stories that I feel are that we are bereft of in the movie world, and I would love to see them made into feature-length movies, or at least segments of a larger anthology. So yeah, I hope this has been informative to you, and if you're interested in reading these books, you should check them out. They are Everything's Eventual and Skeleton Crew. They have lots of great stories in them. Many of them have already become movies, but these three haven't yet. So I look forward to the day when they do make them movies. All right, well, thanks for chatting with me. See you at the next one. Bye.